Hi everyone, what's up? It's your girl Cobbs, and I am back with you today for another video. So while we've been waiting for the next Ark map to release, I've been playing a lot of Palworld. If you don't know already, I'm unsure of how you've gone this far without seeing anything about it, but Palworld is a game that released earlier this month and has skyrocketed to the top of Steam's charts. It's often referred to as Pokemon with Guns and Pokemon Ark. Palworld's main function revolves around capturing quote-unquote pals to help you progress in the game, as well as battle and capture higher level pals. These pals are also categorized by their types, such as normal, ice, dark, and dragon, and many more. When Palworld's first trailer dropped in 2021, many people identified it as looking pretty similar to Pokemon, the globally successful franchise that has spanned across multiple forms of media and gaming platforms. Palworld was just a trailer back then though, so no one was too concerned with the similarities. But when Palworld released and topped Steam's charts for top-selling games and most played easily within a week of release, everyone started to take notice. Many have debated on whether this is a copyright of Pokemon, and since this is the internet, many have taken to sending death threats to the artist of Palworld, since Pokemon, the billion-dollar franchise, clearly needs the help defending their content. That being said, Nintendo released a statement on the 24th saying the following. We have received many inquiries regarding another company's game released in January 2024. We have not granted any permission for the use of Pokemon intellectual property or assets in that game. We intend to investigate and take appropriate measure to address any acts that infringe on intellectual property rights related to the Pokemon. We will continue to cherish and nurture each and every Pokemon and its world, and work to bring the world together through Pokemon in the future. Since the release of Nintendo's statement, the internet has gone up in storm on 1. Whether Nintendo will inevitably sue Pocket Pair, the developer of Palworld, and 2. Whether they'll be successful. Before this, people had already been discussing the similarities between some of the pals and some of the Pokemon we know and love. But this added one giant gasoline dump to an already pretty intense fire. So that's what I would like to discuss today. 1. Whether we think Nintendo will end up suing Palworld, and 2. Whether we think they'll be successful if they do. As always, before we get into today's video, I would really appreciate a big like and a subscribe, a comment, whatever you feel inclined to do. It really helps and supports the channel and means a lot to me. First, as a recap, let's go over the 5 copyright laws in the United States. A copyright owner has the exclusive right to reproduce, adapt, distribute, publicly perform, and publicly display their work, or authorize others to do so. Additionally, 3 basic requirements for copyright protection include that which is to be protected must be a work of authorship, it must be original, and it must be fixed in a tangible medium of expression. Just to clear it up now, I'm not an attorney. I am not an expert on any of these laws, but I've done a little bit of research, so I'm just pulling from what I've seen so far. Any attorneys or legal experts in chat that want to chime in on any of this, please, you are more than welcome. But it looks like the point of contention for Palworld is going to be the adaptation part of that. If you are the creator of Pikachu and have copyrighted Pikachu, other people cannot use Pikachu and just change him a little in order to produce content, or to produce whatever you would use Pikachu Jr. for. Obviously, I'm not talking about actual Pikachu, but you get the point I'm trying to say. What a lot of people are concerned about is that too many of the quote-unquote pals from Palworld are exact rip-offs of Pokemon. Some of these include Grintail and Galarian Meowth, Krimus and Eevee, the Dire Howl and Lycanroc, and Flaffy and Melpaka. There are many more on this list that line up pretty closely to Pokemon, so if you'd like to check that out, I will post that link in the description along with any other sources I use in this video. But something to note here is that that is where the similarities pretty much stop. Pokemon is very much a children's game, and although it has a lot of darker elements that as adults we can seek out and identify, it is very much marketed to children. Palworld, I would argue, is very much not a children's game. It definitely has the style, it looks a lot like Fortnite, truth be told, but a lot of the elements in-game and even some of the game mechanics might be a little too rough around the edges for kids. I'm not going to argue whether kids should play Palworld or not because that's not my decision. I'm not a parent, that's a parent's decision. But one point of view that I don't think is brought up enough is the idea that Palworld is simply a Pokemon parody. Dinga Bakaba, a senior official at Arcane Lion, the developer of the Dishonored franchise, had a lot to say on this subject. Well, maybe not a lot, but I thought the point he made was very well put. Bakaba posits that this game, Pokemon with Guns, was always meant to be a parody of Pokemon. It was meant to poke fun and also offer the blind spots with the very popular children's fantasy of Pokemon. I mean, we've all wondered why Pokemon don't attack people, right? In some of the descriptions, it mentions the Pokemon will interact with humans in negative ways, but realistically, Pokemon should be eating people. One of the more controversial game mechanics is the enslavement of some of the NPCs in this game. I cannot confirm or deny this, but I think you can even sell the Syndicate thugs on the black market. Palworld takes the idea of capturing, taming, enslaving, whatever you want to call it, a world's creatures, and dives much deeper into it than Pokemon ever did. On top of that, with the survival mechanics, the crafting, all of the other elements that differentiate it from Pokemon, all of it together makes Palworld a very different experience in game. If you enjoy playing old school Pokemon, you may not enjoy Palworld. And that's not because Pocket Pair stole assets, it's because Palworld is a very different game, gameplay-wise, than any of the Pokemon games. The issue comes from the accusation to Pocket Pair that artists and developers stole assets from Pokemon. Not just went off of ideas, but stole legitimate assets and used them in Palworld. It's literally that meme where it's like, can I copy your homework? And they're like, yeah, but just change it a little bit. That's what a lot of people are accusing Pocket Pair of. One Twitter user went as far as to load the models for some of these Pokemon Pal comparisons and compare them apple to apples in whatever engine that people create them in. I don't know, I'm not super knowledgeable about this side of the internet. But what they found is that some of the Pokemon in Pal's character models were pretty closely lined up in their proportions and in every other aspect. I found an article discussing this, and I want to note that the developers decided to stay anonymous. I think that's completely fair, but I think if they wanted to put weight behind their opinions, they would not be anonymous, but who knows. But the internet's a scary place. Maybe they just didn't want their name behind an unpopular opinion, which I think is completely fair. According to two experienced AAA game artists, you cannot in any way accidentally get the same proportions on multiple models from another game without ripping the models, or at the very least, tracing them meticulously first. These same artists go on to discuss how when making sequels, it is so difficult to get the proportions right that sometimes they have to copy one mesh over. If you don't know what that means, I assume it means copy and paste the character models from the old game. That is just a very rudimentary understanding, though. If you know what it means, feel free to say more about it. But the point is that it's very difficult to get matching character models, and apparently some of these artists and this Twitter user have found a lot of Palworld models, character models, and Pokemon character models that almost line up one-to-one. One thing I'd like to note is a lot of this evidence comes from a Twitter user that has no credentials and does not seem to be any way involved in the gaming industry other than as a fan and consumer. They obviously know how to line up character models and compare them, so I'm sure they're involved in development in some sort, or maybe it's an interest. But what I'm trying to say here is that for the everyday user that doesn't know much about game development, it would be very easy to just say this and not back it up in any form or fashion. That, coupled with two experienced AAA game artists who don't want to put their name on the line for this opinion, makes me a little nervous about this particular piece of evidence. I also do want to say, though, I am very biased towards Palworld. So this could just be a blind spot of mine, and maybe once they do some digging, they find that Palworld did steal Pokemon assets. The article later states from a popular attorney that they can't speak to the science used on this Twitter account, but certainly evidence of actual assets being stolen is the kind of thing that is likely to make a more successful case. So to sum it all together, it looks like the main issue with Pokemon vs. Palworld right now is the idea of stolen assets. There's a random Twitter user out there that seems to believe that the assets were stolen based off of character models being lined up one-to-one, but it seems the industry, from what I've seen, is pretty divided on whether this game has violated copyright law or whether it has not. That being said, I do think we'll see a lawsuit from Nintendo. Unless Nintendo has hard evidence that these assets were not stolen, I think they will probably pursue some form of legal action. Nintendo has a very long history of suing its fan games and even a creator tool that was used to produce fan games. Back in 2021, Nintendo actually issued a mass DMCA takedown of 379 fan-made games. At first I was a little confused because Ark also has a Pokemon mod that is pretty popular, and that still exists and is alive and well today. But it looks like the main point of contention for Nintendo is when a fan-made game or some sort of Pokemon fan-made media starts to make money. That's just a theory though. I've found nothing to confirm or deny it other than one creator disabling advertisements and re-uploading the fan-made game without any issue from Nintendo's legal team. So I don't know the inner workings of what Nintendo's legal team has found in their pursuit of whether there was assets stolen from Pokemon. That being said, I think if Pokemon has ground to stand on, or if Nintendo has ground to stand on, they will absolutely pursue legal action, especially when you see the kind of success that Palworld has achieved. I think there's something to be said, though, about the fact that Palworld, in my opinion, isn't a direct competitor with Pokemon. Yes, there are similarities, but Palworld is more of a competitor to things like Ark or any other survival crafting games that are on the market right now. Like I said, I think die-hard enjoyers of the Pokemon franchise really won't find much interest in Palworld. So again, do we think that Nintendo will sue? Like I said, if they have ground to stand on, I do think they will sue. But unless they have hard evidence that assets were stolen from Pokemon and replicated in Palworld, I don't think they will succeed. Especially when you look at the history of Pokemon's original content. Some can and have argued that a lot of Pokemon's assets were stolen from Dragon Quest, which were stolen from Digimon. I don't know if Digimon or Dragon Quest came first, so you'll have to forgive me on that, but the point is a lot of the original Pokemon and the original games look to have been recycled from previous games that were recycled from previous games. Recycled and touched up and changed a little bit. So again, that's all to say, if Nintendo does decide to pursue legal action, I really don't think they're going to be successful. Unless, again, there is die-hard confirmation, receipts, the whole 9 yards, that assets were taken from Pokemon and used in Palworld. I don't know how to prove that. I don't know if that's provable. So, it's up to the legal teams, I think. And God, I don't know. But that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. It's been a minute since I made one of these more informative type videos, and it was a lot of fun. So if you enjoyed it, please leave a like, a subscribe, a comment. Tell me how much you hate my opinion, whatever that looks like. Or if you don't hate my opinion and you want to come hang out, I do stream on Twitch usually every Wednesday through Saturday, and we would love to have you in our community. And if you have anything to add to this subject that you think would be of value, please feel free to comment and let us know everything that you know and all of your opinions. Anyways, that's all I have for you today. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Peace! Hey guys, what's up? This is Cops from the future. I was about to post this video and found online some resources disproving the Twitter user that had lined up the character models. I want to go ahead and say I am not a game artist. I am not a 3D developer. I have no knowledge of this. I'm just going off of the people who have spoken on this subject. But the original poster, the Twitter user claiming that the models were one-to-one matches, or close enough to be an area of concern, stated that after the fact they did scale the models and apologized for being imprecise. What I'm getting from this, it means that they shrunk or made some bigger to essentially be able to compare them closer. So the idea that some models were exact one-to-one replicas or close enough is inaccurate and incorrect. The proportions might be close enough to cause concern, but the fact that this user has now gone back on things they've said and claimed to have scaled things for their, I don't want to say own agenda, but this user very clearly does not like this game, and it just feels a little propaganda-y. I don't know. I think my point still stands. If there's a way to prove the Palworld stole assets and reused them in their game from Pokemon, then yeah, we're probably going to see a lawsuit. That being said, I don't know if this Twitter user scaling models up and down to prove proportions is enough to confirm that. I want to be clear here, I said I don't know. So yeah, anyone who knows more about this than me, please feel free to speak up and share your wisdom with the class. But okay, now I'm officially done. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Peace!